Hello, friends. Mike had a dream last night. He dreamed there were two squatters in our yard, and we saw them out there, so I went out the back door, and to protect myself, I had a weapon in my hand, which is symbolic of protection rather than aggression, a self-defense weapon. Mike went out the front, and he asked the squatters what they were doing there. They were dressed in worn clothing, and they answered with mumbling voices. Mike was standing on the front porch, except the door was at the far front of our home, where a bedroom window faces right now. Just then, after the mumblers spoke, defensively, with self-pity, a hand came from above the porch, snatched one of them up, and took him away. Mike's thought was that the other one was next. After that, more came and mulled around our yard, and then the dream ended. Here's the interpretation of that dream. Jesus was in the temple in his day, Matthew 24, and his disciples came out to point out the buildings. They were bragging on these great buildings. And he said, "Do you see all these things? I assure you no stone will be left on another. Everything will be demolished." And then they asked him later when they were on the mountain, "When will these things happen? What will be the sign of the end of the age?" And he told them. And he warned them about being deceived, because many would come in his name, and that nations and kingdoms would fight among one another. Many false prophets would come and deceive many people. Because disobedience will expand, the love of many will grow cold, but the one who endures to the end will be delivered. The gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end will come. This has been fulfilled. The testimony has been spread to all the nations, and the onset of the internet helped with that effort, and many charity organizations and missionary trips with the advent of flying and traveling and resources available. But when you see disgusting and destructive thing that Daniel talked about standing in the holy place, the reader should understand then those in Judea escaped to the mountains. Those on the roof shouldn't grab things from their houses. Those in the field shouldn't come back and grab their clothing. Those women who are pregnant and those nursing their children, pray it doesn't happen then. And if someone says, "Here's the Christ, he's over there," don't believe it. False Christ, false prophets have appeared and would. And just be aware, too, just as the lightning flashes from the east to the west, so will be the coming of the human one. This one is translated human one rather than the Son of Man. And I'm going to explain what that means. Where the body is, there the vultures gather. The coming of the human one is from a word which in Aramaic means, it's been translated Son of Man, but we don't understand what that means. It is actually a term with a Semitic origin, one who represents a household. It is not a person, an individual. It is a household. So, in claiming being Messiah, Jesus was an authorized representative of the Ancient of Days. He wasn't a man. He was an emissary of the Most High God, the Ancient of Days. So when it says that this human will come back, we are saying that God's influence on mankind will spread to all humanity, and we will all be God's representatives. We will all be children of the Most High, the Ancient of Days in the end times. And that is what we are now going through. And if you don't know who I am, who this is who's speaking, the person speaking is Pammy Joe, a spiritual healer who gives permission to Eternals on Earth to activate and use your God-given talents and skills to help me heal mankind. Eternal means you're of the household of the Ancient of Days, who is me. I am taking Earth back. It's already been assigned over to me by my angel, my human entity who came here to represent me with the Christ Spirit on. So these people in this dream, Jesus went on to say that no one knows the hour, and to explain the difference between faithful and unfaithful servants. Who are the faithful and wise servants whom their master puts in charge of giving food at the right time to those who live in his house? Happy are those servants whom the master finds fulfilling their responsibilities when he comes. I assure you, he will put them in charge of all his possessions. But suppose these bad servants should say to themselves, my master won't come until later, and suppose they began to beat their fellow servants, eat and drink with the drunks. Well, the master of those servants will come on a day when they are not expecting him, at a time they couldn't predict. He will cut them in pieces, put them in a place with the hypocrites. People there will be weeping and grinding their teeth. So, what we have are squatters on earth, people who lord it over others, politicians, certain corporations, not everyone, who feed mankind poison, either foods or promises, take bribes like the scribes and Pharisees did when the Romans were controlling the nation of Israel, which represents God's presence in humanity on earth and is expanding now. People who thrive on the flesh of others rather than serving them in exchange for value. People who lie and market products that are not in mankind's soul or body's best interests are squatters on earth. You will be customarily removed from your positions and replaced by people who have the goodwill and the health and the soul and the spirit of the eternal beings on earth. In the book, I promise the inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast and the Antichrist. What is beast and Antichrist? Anything that does not have the best interest and the freedom of mankind and angel kind in mind. Anything that chooses to manipulate others in a lying, false way with false promises or profit from the suffering of others. Now that includes, but does not exclude any group, people who rape, people who take bribes and lord it over politically over others, dictatorships where billions of dollars are in a coffer while the people starve. So those people trespassing on our property, which this yard represented symbolically, will be snatched away. And it is written, two will be standing in a field, one will be taken and the other will be left. The one left in the field, the one left in the home, the one left in the church or the tabernacle, who is serving others, therefore doing my will, will be left. Behold, I said, we would come as a thief in the night. You don't announce your arrival if someone's invaded your house and you have your so-called gun out, ready to arrest them, chain them, and get them out of your house. Now, there's another type of thief that comes to destroy. I get that. But sometimes we're undercover for a reason, because we can get into the enemy's territory and take back what's rightfully ours. This is an important video because my servant gave Earth back to me last year, and now I'm taking it.